We've always known that CBC has a, shall we say, soft spot for perhaps terrorists, or doesn't even call them terrorists. But since the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack on Israel, CBC, our state broadcaster, funded by you, the taxpayer, has not necessarily been doing their job. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Warren Kinsella. Am I being unfair, Warren, to CBC when I say that they are not doing a public service as journalists in terms of their reporting on the Israel-Hamas war? And you have gone ahead and discovered an interesting bit of information about what CBC is actually doing before they put things to air.
Yeah, no, I do not think you're being unfair. I think you're being quite accurate. This is CBC, who refuses to call a terrorist organization like Hamas terrorist, even though they called ISIS, who, slaughtered a bunch of people in Moscow a few days ago, they're calling them terrorists, but not Hamas. And the qualitative difference is Israel. This is a CBC that accepts without qualification the casualty numbers from Hamas itself. They just report them as fact. This is the CBC who alleged that Israel bombed a hospital in Gaza City when in fact it did not, and the hospital is still standing. So that's the CBC's records well known. What is less known is what I was able to find out this week, speaking off the record or on background to a number of present and former CBC people, either reporters or producers. They told me about the existence of a secret committee, basically, that has existed within CBC that is overseeing the coverage that is done in the Middle East. And that was a revelation. That was new. And the fair question to ask is this unfairness, this bias against Israel, a consequence of this committee? I don't know the answer to that. The one thing I do know is that I spoke to a number of these journalists, present and former at CBC, who are of the Jewish faith, and they are very unhappy. They say that they are pitching stories to the desk. Those stories are going nowhere. They say that they are raising concerns about imbalance. Why hasn't IDF even been quoted once on camera on the news network on CBC since in 2024? We're in the fourth month of the year, and they haven't even used the IDF to defend its position on whatever issue. So there's a big, big problem there, and that's not just from us. We're hearing that from within the CBC itself.
Brian, I always say that every media outlet, radio, print, TV, everybody has their own political bent, their own slant, and for them to say that they are straight down the middle and they just report the facts, that's nonsense. We all have our way of looking at the world. And certainly CBC is also in that category. Of course, the difference being it's fully funded by taxpayers. Those of us that are at the Toronto Sun, we get constant pushback that we are far too pro-Israel and we're not giving the other side of it. We have letter writing campaigns against us all the time. But that said, what strikes me as different with this is it seems not only is it apparently operating under secret, not so secret anymore now that Warren's exposed it.
Yeah.
But it's really putting the journalists within CBC, Jewish or not, in a position where they are the ones that are trying to present the facts, not opinion makers like we are, but presenting facts straight down the middle, puts them in a very awkward position.
Well, it does. And look, CBC has an audience that doesn't like a diversity of opinion. They love diversity as long as it's not diversity of opinion. And as you know, I've been going on CBC infrequently for the last little while. They hadn't had me on in years. They started having me on. There's a lot of outrage when I show up on CBC airways because a good chunk of their audience just doesn't want to hear anything that isn't coming from a very specific progressive left-wing view. I think as the state broadcaster, the public broadcaster in their lingo, it's incumbent upon them to reflect the country. I think, and I've written for many years, that I think they've done a very bad job of that. If they're going to try and improve on that, then good for them for having more voices on. But on Israel, they have been specifically bad. They have been very bad at reporting even the facts, as Warren said, taking as gospel truth that Israel bombed a hospital in Gaza when that wasn't the fact at all, that 500 people were killed when that was not the fact at all, and taking a long time to walk that back. I'm sorry, that is just not acceptable. They have not been balanced. They have not been fair when it comes to their coverage of Israel, and that shows, but it serves their audience. And as you said, every media outlet has their own bias, their own audience. I think they're catering to a very specific audience that is anti-Israel, that is pro-Hamas, that is not looking for the truth, but looking for a narrative.
Warren, last word to you. As this, as you were having these conversations with these CBC employees, reporters, journalists, and you're putting this story together, you put some very pointed questions towards CBC. It would appear to me, me as the editor, I make decisions every day, what goes in the paper, what goes out there. This one with CBC is very specific because it appears that it came together since the October 7th terrorist attack, or has it always been around?
Well, they tell me that it was around before. They're just referring to it as a list.
I see.
But within CBC, it's being called a committee. And initially, we were told there were no Jews on the committee. They swear to me that that's not so. But, Adrienne, it doesn't add up. As you saw, because I was copying you on my correspondence with them, they said, well, we don't collect data on who, belongs to what religion or what culture. But by the way, we do have Jews on that committee. And it's like, well, which is it, guys? Either you don't collect the information or you do. And so I got the impression that I was not being told the truth, or at least they were being fast and loose with the truth. And that's reflective of their coverage. They are, just objectively. Like, obviously, we're pro-Israel at our newspaper and our newspaper chain, and people know that. But they are pretending, as you say, to be objective. They are pretending to be straight up the middle, and they are not. They are being unfair to Israel. They're being unfair to the Jewish community, and they're being unfair to those of us who pay the shot and support, Israel and support the Jewish community. So it's not acceptable. And, hopefully under a change of leadership in Ottawa, it's going to change.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to the TorontoSun.com. You can find Warren's coverage on this story and Brian's reporting and others that you will not find anywhere else.